What if I told you that the most powerful liars in history didn't lie to others? They lied to themselves, and in doing so, they became geniuses, not by accident, but by design. You see, there is a psychological technique buried deep in cognitive science and shadowed by philosophical paradoxes that, when used correctly, can give you the ability to manipulate perception, rewire belief, and bend truth without ever becoming dishonest. It's not hypnosis. It's not manipulation. It's not NLP. It's something far older, more primal, and more dangerous. But here's the twist. It can be used to make you unstoppable, ethically, powerfully, with purpose. While the world around you thinks you're just lucky or naturally confident, you'll be deploying a weapon of the mind so misunderstood, most psychologists won't even admit how effective it is. It's called strategic self-deception, and once you understand it, really understand it, you'll never think about truth the same way again. Let's go deeper. We've all been told that lying is bad, that truth is sacred, that the honest man wins in the end. But the truth, if we can even call it that, is that the most successful people in history didn't win by clinging to reality. They won by bending it. Think about it. A boxer must believe irrationally that he cannot be knocked out, despite thousands of knockouts recorded every year. A politician must promise things he knows he can't fully deliver while believing he can. A startup founder must pitch an idea that isn't even functional yet, but speak of it as if it already changed the world. Are they lying, or are they performing a higher-order trick of consciousness? Here's the terrifying beauty. The brain doesn't care. Our brains are not truth machines. They are survival machines, and survival doesn't require accuracy. It requires belief. And this is where it gets interesting. Strategic self-deception is the art of intentionally embedding false, but empowering, beliefs in your mind in order to create results that are impossible within the limits of truth. It is not lying in the moral sense. It is constructive illusion, a way of turning your brain into an engine of impossible confidence, unshakable composure, and magnetic charisma. The catch? No one else will understand what you're doing, because to them you'll look delusional. But here's the paradox. The line between genius and delusion is often drawn in hindsight. Let me show you how this works. The human brain runs on stories, not facts. This is why two people can experience the exact same situation and come away with two completely different interpretations of what happened. Facts don't shape our world. Our interpretation of those facts does. So, what happens when you deliberately manipulate your interpretation? You change your reality. Let's say you fail at something badly. Maybe you lose your job. Most people would spiral into self-doubt, shame, and fear. But someone using strategic self-deception reframes the event instantly. This isn't a failure. This is a redirection. The universe just cleared a path for something better. Objectively, is that true? You could argue no. But the subjective power of that belief will trigger a psychological cascade. Higher dopamine, more motivation, better focus, stronger social presence, and ironically, a greater likelihood of future success. And so the lie becomes the truth. Now, let's push this further. There's a concept in military strategy known as reflexive control. It's the idea of feeding your opponent a false narrative, not to manipulate them directly, but to get them to manipulate themselves based on what they believe is happening. Strategic self-deception is internal reflexive control. You're feeding yourself a false but empowering narrative so that your own mind acts as your ally, not your enemy. Why is this so important? Because your brain, by default, is not designed for greatness. It's designed for safety. It's constantly scanning for threats, looking for reasons to play small, avoid risk, stay quiet. This was useful when we were avoiding predators and tribal rejection. But in the modern world, it's psychological poison. If you don't override this system, you will always act from fear. This is where strategic self-deception becomes a weapon. You implant beliefs like, everything is happening for me. I'm built for this moment. I already won. I'm just waiting for the world to catch up. These are not objectively true, but they are functionally true because they create the emotional states necessary for success. And here's the kicker. Neuroscience backs this up. Studies in cognitive behavioral therapy, placebo effects, and self-affirmation all point to a central truth. Your beliefs create feedback loops that alter behavior, perception, and even physiology. The lie becomes real because you act as if it were. But what about the ethics? Isn't this just mental manipulation? That's where intent comes in. You are not using strategic self-deception to hurt others. You are using it to liberate yourself from self-imposed limits. There's a term in dark philosophy called noble illusion. It's the idea that some lies are necessary for a higher order of truth. The samurai believed they were already dead before battle began. This allowed them to fight without fear. They weren't suicidal, they were strategic. They used the illusion of death to access a deeper form of life, fearless action. This is what you must understand. Lying to yourself, when done consciously and with purpose, is not a weakness. It is discipline. It is not escapism. It is architecture. You are building a mind that works for you, not against you. Let me give you a real example. There's a man, call him David, who grew up in poverty, was abused, and told he would never amount to anything. On paper, he had no chance. But David did something strange. He started telling himself he was chosen. Not in a religious way, more like a mythic narrative. He said to himself over and over, I was built for something great. The pain proves it. This was not logical. It was not scientific. It was a pure fabrication. But it gave him something real. Resilience. He trained like a madman. He read obsessively. He worked like he had a divine mission. And eventually, people started believing in him. Not because the lie became real, but because the results did. David created a life so powerful, the myth he told himself stopped being a myth. It became identity. The question now becomes, how do you use this? Let's break it into steps. Identify the limiting truth. Find the belief you currently hold that is true, but keeping you small. For example, I'm not confident in social situations. Replace it with a functional lie. Choose a new belief that's not true yet, but would empower you if it were. Example, I am magnetic in every conversation I enter. Ritualize the reinforcement. Repeat the new belief not just with words, but with behavior. Act as if it were already true. Dress, speak, and move like that version of you. Let feedback loops take over. Once your actions align with the belief, people respond differently. Their reaction reinforces your belief. The cycle completes. Protect the illusion. Do not let doubters shake it. Remember, they are reacting to your past self, not your future one. Hold the frame. This is not wishful thinking. This is neurocognitive engineering. And it works. But be warned, this technique comes with a cost. You will become unrelatable to people who still worship facts. You will be accused of arrogance, delusion, or ego. But remember, those who cling to reality as it is are slaves to it. You, on the other hand, are redesigning it. There is no genius without a bit of madness, no transformation without rebellion, no legend without illusion. Einstein once said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." He wasn't exaggerating. He was telling us the secret. So what do you do now? You choose the story you want to live in, and you live in it so convincingly, the world has no choice but to follow. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for evidence. Don't wait for certainty. Lie to yourself on purpose, with honor, with fire in your chest, and walk as if it were already true. Because when your mind believes, your body obeys. And when your body obeys, the world responds. You are not a liar. You are an architect of meaning. And no one will understand what you're doing until it works. Then they'll call you a genius.